I wanted to bring up these different types of traces to show that, hey, depending on what type of corner we're approaching, what type of car we're in, our braking application is going to vary. There's no perfect trace. The downforce trace is great for downforce cars, and that's that hard initial smooth release that we typically see, that number one here, and for a variety of reasons. For one, downforce cars, our grip decreases as our speed decreases. So as you're going faster, so if I'm going 170 miles an hour, my initial brake application, I'll have much more grip available in the car because of all the downforce at that initial brake hit. As I'm slowing down, so at the end of my brake zone, I'm going maybe 80 miles an hour if I'm going into a relatively high medium speed corner, that brake is going to have to be at quite a bit less pressure, even in a straight line as I'm braking because I have less grip available. So that's why it's called a downforce trace, because even in a straight line, you're decreasing pressure. Now, in a lot of, some sedans I've driven and a lot of non-downforce cars, you can threshold brake for as long as you want. I've seen guys drive some touring cars be super quick that way. If you're braking super, super hard in a straight line for a really long time, you can be at that peak threshold braking for quite a while. Something like Spec Miata or even Mini Coopers that I've driven on track, fast little cars, but they don't have any downforce. It's a little, it's a bread box shaped car. It's not getting sucked to the ground as we go faster here. You can threshold brake for a really long period of time. And then that smooth release is going to relate to our trail braking, how we're carrying the weight into the corner as we start to increase a little bit of steering input in the car in some way. It goes back to the oldest thing I hear of in racing is, imagine attaching a string from the steering wheel to your pedals. You have 100% of the grip available in the tire. Are you going to use it to steer, brake, or accelerate? And you can only do so much at a time. That relates to our G plots and our traction circles, for a tire as a whole. So you can either get 100% brake pressure, but as soon as we start to add a little bit of steering in the car, then we need to take away some of that braking ability. We don't want to lock up tires as we're getting into a brake zone because we start to add in steering wheel. So that's where that smooth release comes in. And we'll show that on that other slide with the LMP3 brake data. I do have some lateral acceleration too to see that visualization is when we get into a corner, we start adding in lateral grip. We need to take away some of that braking ability too. Now the smooth initial and release, I'm sure something where it's more of a high speed corner. And, all of these little, I guess 3 and 4 here, where it's more of a smoother, maybe less high of a peak brake trace, relates to our speed and what type of a corner are we approaching. A lot of people I've seen approach high speed corners and they think they need to threshold brake every single corner that they are on track. And it's great that they're able to reach that ability, but say we're going into turn 1 at like Road Atlanta, for example, super high speed corners, super high commitment. If we're threshold braking into there, think about how much weight you're throwing on the front end of your car. If you're going to induce a ton of instability in a lot of those cases. And, it might be better to have a smoother brake application, really build up the pressure, maybe a little bit slower, a little bit lighter, and a longer braking period rather than having a super short